But TLJ left them with nothing to go on. It's the best they could have done.
Huh? What? Well, that's a silly thing to say. Well, that's a silly thing to say. Silly thing to say. Silly thing to say.
Silly thing to say?
No, it's not. It's actually a very reasonable response to have. Now, I personally don't see much merit in bickering about which film is better, The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. We all have our different tastes and opinions, we're all bringing something different to the table, and we're gonna like different things. That being said, I do slightly prefer The Rise of Skywalker, but that's probably mainly due to the fact that my expectations for it were much lower. Even though Force Awakens was a fairly generic film and not exceptional by any means, I really enjoyed it, and going into The Last Jedi, I had very high expectations of that movie. I think the middle in a trilogy really has the most to live up to. It really is the make it or break it point, and I felt really let down by the movie. I don't think it took the plot anywhere new or interesting. Of course, a lot of people disagree with me, but given that movie, my expectations for The Rise of Skywalker were very low. So I went into the theater just not really caring, and I just accepted it for what it was, and I still got enjoyment out of the movie. I mean, I enjoyed all three of the sequel movies, to be honest, but the problem with The Last Jedi is that it doesn't take the story anywhere new, and The Rise of Skywalker suffers directly from that. And I know you mentioned earlier in the video that good writers pick up where others leave off, and that's true to some extent. But we're not talking about a choose-your-own-adventure book. We're talking about a trilogy. A 3-part, each installment moving the plot along in some way to create one cohesive story. And the fact is, the sequel trilogy didn't do that. And that falls on The Last Jedi. Force Awakens doesn't have too much to live up to because it's the first in the trilogy. All it has to do is set the tone, provide you with the characters, the backstory, the world building. And I think The Force Awakens could have done it a lot better. I have some major gripes with this that I might get into in another video. But it ultimately set up the characters for an interesting story. And The Last Jedi doesn't do anything. It just simply doesn't do anything. And I know people say that, oh, it did something new, it did something different. But just the fact that it's not a carbon cutout of The Empire Strikes Back does not make it good. And the honest fact is that it's actually very similar in a lot of ways to The Empire Strikes Back. Mainly the fact that the movie kind of revolves around this plot of the old exiled Jedi Master training the inexperienced new Jedi, right? It's kind of the same. And I thought that part of the movie was fine. But what does the rest of it do, right? Rian Johnson, and I know other people worked on this. I know he probably wasn't even the main writer. I know a lot of other people contributed to it, but where was the direction? We have this character, Snoke, who just gets killed out of nowhere, totally meaninglessly. And Rey and Kylo team up for a bit, and it's like, okay, cool, this is different, this is new, this is not what we're used to seeing in Star Wars. This is a new direction. And it's like they open that door for something new that they could have led the series in a new direction, but they don't. You see the door, you see it start to open, and then it's shut. And it's shut right before your eyes, and there's nothing you can do about it. That moment when Kylo said, "Rey, take my hand. Let's team up. Let's do it our own way. We're bigger than this. There's something else. There's something more." And Rey refuses. And essentially the movie ends shortly after. What do you get? Well, we're back at square one. You have goody two-shoes, Jedi versus the evil, big, bad Kylo Ren. The only difference now is that Snoke is out of the equation, and he was a pointless character anyways. And you're back exactly how it was after The Force Awakens ends. And honestly, Rey didn't really grow that much as a Jedi. She was very powerful in The Force Awakens. She grew a little bit through her training, and I did enjoy the relationship that Rey and Kylo had in the movie, but we're back to square one. We're back to the end of The Force Awakens. She got trained, Luke died. Good guy Rey versus bad guy Kylo. That's all we have. I fail to see where this movie goes anywhere new, and honestly, what I've been thinking about is that The Last Jedi, as a movie, could have been explained in a crawl. It could have been in the opening crawl of The Rise of Skywalker. Rey, trained by Jedi Master Luke, and Snoke dies. Rey and Kylo are at it again. You can see I'm kind of BSing here because what do, right? The fact that Palpatine came back in The Rise of Skywalker is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's laughable. It's honestly a meme. I mean, I was enjoying it just for the meme value, and I cringe even saying that, to be honest, but it was ridiculous. Even one of the first, 5 minutes of The Rise of Skywalker, when Palpatine is like, Snoke, I created Snoke. I actually laughed out loud. And I don't know if anyone else in the theater did or not, but I was laughing because you could see that The Last Jedi, or The Rise of Skywalker, did not know where to go. It had nowhere to pick up on. And Palpatine's return is really just a trump card, right? It's big, bad, evil Palpatine. It's a trump card. It's the last resort. I don't know who the writing team was for The Rise of Skywalker. They probably could have done a little bit better job. There's some minor things I really dislike about the movie, and ultimately I don't think the movie's great. But it's really the problem with the trilogy as a whole, and especially The Last Jedi. Because there's really not that much character development. The plot doesn't move anywhere new. We don't have any kind of cliffhanger. We don't have any kind of unknown or any kind of new place to go. We don't really have anything new to be resolved. It's just your ragtag team of rebels versus your big bad evil empire. It's the exact same as it was in The Force Awakens. What did that movie do? Tell me what it did. Honestly, I challenge anybody to, and I know this is in hindsight, but tell me how you would have liked to see Rise of Skywalker go. Because I know there are probably some really great ideas and great theories out there of how Rise of Skywalker could have been a lot better, even given The Last Jedi, but I don't see it right now. I don't see The Rise of Skywalker in any alternate universe where The Last Jedi exists. I don't see The Rise of Skywalker being a great movie. And I enjoyed it for what it was because my expectations were low, but The Last Jedi is the problem. And maybe you enjoyed it as a movie, but it did nothing for the story. And it's why you have The Rise of Skywalker. The Rise of Skywalker is a spawn of The Last Jedi. It's inevitable. The fact that Rey was nobody in The Last Jedi, that's cool. I'm fine with it, but I don't care. I don't really care if Rey is nobody or somebody. That's not important. What's important is a good story. Characters that make sense. A story that is compelling. That you don't know what's going to happen. You want to know with all your heart. And you're invested emotionally in the characters. I mean, personally, I think Finn, this is just a creative decision. I think he probably should have died in The Last Jedi. It would have been a beautiful sacrifice. And again, what do they do with his character? Nothing. I mean, Finn is a lot of fun, but he's really just Rey's hype man. And Rey's great. Don't get me wrong, she deserves a hype man more than anybody. But that's what he is. He is a hype man. Like that guy standing in the background of a rap battle, just cheering you on, getting in everybody's face. That's what Finn is. His character is nothing. So they should have killed him off. Leia, I mean, she did a little bit. So I thought that scene of her flying through the air was ridiculous. But again, that's a minor gripe. I probably shouldn't get into that too much. But yeah, I love the fact that Leia's force sensitive and that she's training Rey, but she didn't do anything that great. Right? I mean, what does her character really do? And again, these are creative decisions. I don't really care who lives and who dies as long as we care, as long as we're emotionally invested. And The Last Jedi just didn't do that. Sure, it gave us some cool things. It gave us Rey and Kylo's relationship. It gave us new lore about the Force. But what else did it do for the larger plot? That's my problem. And that's my problem with The Last Jedi. And I really think this trilogy needs to be remade from the bottom up, but this is what we got. And, you gotta enjoy it for what it is, I guess. But that's what it is. And that's all it is right there. The Rise of Skywalker was a weak film, but I enjoyed it. To an extent. But I enjoyed it because I knew it wasn't going to be good. The Last Jedi kind of ruined its chances to do anything. And that's why you have this Rey is a Palpatine, Palpatine's back, all the bloodline, all this lore, all this history, because they didn't know what to do. The studio was sitting there, scratching their heads, confused as all hell, draining cups of coffee, scribbling on paper. I don't know what the creative process is to make these movies, and I would love to know. I'd love to be in on it. That's kind of a bit of a dream job, of course. I mean, who gets to write Star Wars? That's pretty amazing, and I think we'd all do it if we had the chance. But hey, I guess just got to live with what they give us, and this video is not meant to be an attack on anyone who disagrees with me. It's mainly just to open up dialogue, get some new ideas out there. Probably rehash a lot of old ones, but I hope I'm bringing something new to the table. And yeah, I mean, well, HelloGreedo, and I mean, he's my favorite Star Wars tuber. One of the inspirations for making these kind of videos, and hopefully I can do this in the future. Yeah, so until next time, guys, peace.